Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 16 of the 25 Tour de France, brought to you by Baker Tilly. Big shout out to Baker Tilly for sponsoring every episode of the Butterfly Effect for the 25 Tour de France. Now today's stage, at 170 kilometers, I'll call it 110 miles in length, and they're going up the famous climb Mont Ventoux. But if we look at the profile, it's completely flat for everything until we get into about the last 30 kilometers, and it goes up. Mont Ventoux proper is 8.5% average, and we're talking about 18.5 kilometers long. So it's a monster climb, and it gradually goes up to that from about 30 kilometers out. So you got to have some climbing legs. You have to be a pure climber. You got to be a GC favorite if you want to battle out at the finish of today's stage, because when we look at the interview from Michael Woods in the neutral section before the stage even started, Michael Woods says this is an easy stage to control. This is an easy stage to control. I agree with him 100%. When I went to bed last night, I thought there's no doubt about it. Liddell Trek will control the stage. UAE team members will help out with Liddell Trek to control the stage, so Johnny Milan can win the intermediate sprint points competition 110 kilometers into the stage for sure with 60 kilometers to go, and then Liddell Trek will back off. UAE team members will control it into the climb. Tadej Pogačar, Jonas Vingegaard will battle out for the stage victory on here on Mont Ventoux. For sure, 100%. Well, let me take you into 60 kilometers to go. 60 kilometers to go at the intermediate sprint line competition. We see it's Jonas Abrahamsen up there from UNO-X winning maximum points. That's 20 points that Johnny Milan cannot get. Now, why did I bring you into 60 kilometers to go instead of 0 kilometers to go? Because when I bring you into 60, I want you to understand how important these points are here at the intermediate sprint. And Johnny Milan is not in the picture. When we see the next group come through, we're talking about 30, 35 riders. The next group coming through 30 seconds behind, and the peloton's coming by at like 4 minutes. It's a lot of time. So let's go into kilometer 0 and find out how Liddell Trek absolutely messed up knuckleheadism tactics here on today's stage 16, and they can't grab any points, because if I remind you guys, at the end on Mont Ventoux at the summit, if Tadej Pogačar was to win this stage, it's not 20 points, it's 30. So Johnny Milan had to get himself some points, and it didn't happen. Okay, first, before we go into kilometer 0, I'm going to take you into stage 15. After stage 15, actually, Quinn Simmons is doing interviews. He's talking about how he didn't have faith in the team tactics of stage 15, that they can make it a sprint, that Johnny Milan could get to the intermediate sprint competition. So there's arguments going within the stage. Quinn Simmons is talking about how he has 3 stages left here to have a shot at winning at the Tour de France. When you bring Johnny Milan to the Tour de France and you took off Mads Pedersen to put Johnny Milan on, surely you wanted to win stage 1. Liddell Trek messed up stage 1. They missed the split. They didn't get the race leader's yellow jersey or win the stage. But Johnny Milan is in the green jersey. He has won himself a stage here at the Tour de France already, and he needs these points. But there's some unrest within the Liddell Trek team. That's the only thing I can think of with that ridiculous interview from Quinn Simmons talking about how he has 3 more stages at chance of trying to win. Man, if I'm the director sportif of Liddell Trek, I'm thinking you have to ride every mountain stage at the beginning into the intermediate sprints. And then when we talk about tomorrow's stage and we talk about 3 days after that, those are stages that you can't go to win either, because you're going to be working for Johnny Milan. Liddell Trek, did you forget that you left Mads Pedersen off the roster here to help lead out Johnny Milan for stage victories and the green jersey points? They must be knuckleheads. They haven't done it, and they have messed up time and time again. And the interviews after stage 15 from Quinn Simmons were absolute pure knuckleheadism. Okay, so now we're going into kilometer 0. You understand why I'm bringing you into kilometer 0, because when we see the attacks right away from the peloton, it's Wout van Aert going up the road, and he's got Johnny Milan on his wheel. What? Kilometer 0? Johnny Milan and the green points is covering attacks? That's ridiculous knuckleheadism at its best. Johnny Milan should be sitting back having a free ride. Every one of his teammates should be covering the move and bringing it back slowly to every attack that's going up the road. Bring it back slowly. We go into 10 kilometers after kilometer 0. We see 3 guys are going up the road, 2 from Two-Door Cycling. That's Hershey and Haller up there. Now these guys are drilling it. These 3 dudes are putting in some massive work on the pedals, and there's still attacks happening back and forth in the back there, and UAE Team Emirates are covering and bringing stuff back. So that means if you're Lidl Trek, you just have to jump in with UAE team members and help control it. Instead, Johnny Milan is covering attacks. Guys, I can't cover every attack because Johnny Milan was in multiple moves covering attacks, and his Lidl Trek teammates were usually near the middle to the back of the peloton. Sure, for sure, there's some, at time to time, there's some riders at the front from Lidl Trek, but it's not very often. It's not 100% of the time like it should have been if you left Mads Pedersen off the roster here because everyone's racing for Johnny Milan, and instead Johnny Milan's burning his legs up trying to cover moves. We go into about 130 kilometers ago. We still have 3 riders off the front. We see Niels Palet, UAE team members, trying to calm the front of the peloton down as it's going curb to curb. Do you see any more than 1 Lidl Trek, 2 Lidl Trek guys, anywhere near the front of the peloton? You don't see that. If they had come to the front right now with UAE team members, if they'd done it from kilometer 0, no one would even be attacking right now. But instead what happens is after a few kilometers, some more attacks start again. UAE team members are controlling it. Johnny Milan's doing what he can, as he has been throughout this stage. Ridiculous knuckleheadism again from Lidl Trek, having their sprinter covering moves. But we see UAE team members with about 120 kilometers. They start to get it back under control again. And then we see Jaco Alula throwing in a 2-rider attack up there. That's Plapp and Mario Schmid. These 2 riders are throwing up attack and it's starting aggression again. And then UAE team members still are trying to get things under control. Movistar all of a sudden start throwing in attacks. I mean vicious attacks all over the place when this race should be calm, but it's not calm because the knuckleheadism of Trek, Lidl Trek, not coming up there to help control the race, is now making it where UAE team members have blood in the water for all the other teams because they know, well, UAE team members, they might not want to pull all day. Tadej Pogačar in his interview said, yes, this would be a great stage that anyone would like to win, but they don't want to stick their neck out on the line and do all of the work. But if Lidl Trek hopped on the front, for sure they would. But forget that interview because everyone heard Tadej Pogačar say, we don't want to do all the work, so that's why we're seeing all these attacks. Finally, we see Niels Palet. He's getting upset with everybody up front, and still Lidl Trek aren't doing their jobs and trying to help control the race. Then next thing you know, we come into about 100 kilometers to go. Bam! Bam! We're talking about 35 riders going up the road. Full gas right now. Trek have 1 rider in there, Tom Squinge. I don't know what this knucklehead's doing because it's not going to help to be up there. You see him kind of rotate through to mess it up. Not rotate through at the top. He never took a pull. Just rotate through to mess it up. But you can't mess up 35 guys that have teammates in here when we're talking about two-door cycling. Have multiple riders up there. And Julian Alaphilippe's one of them. Mark Hershey's one. Both these riders can climb pretty good. So if you can get to Mont Ventoux, maybe these 2 riders with a little bit of luck and the hand of God on their back might be able to help Julian Alaphilippe win a stage here at the Tour de France. So with those guys pulling on the front, when we see Bahrain Victorious, they have Santiago Buitrago in here, so they're going to be happy to work. When we see that Visma Lease bike got not 1 but 2, Thies Benoot, and we see my man Victor Campenaerts up there, well, they got guys represented. Even UAE team members have not 1 but 2, Sivakov and Soler in this front group. So this front group's working well, and Johnny Milan, you see him trying to bridge across with Beniam Girmay back there. How much energy did he burn already in this first 80 kilometers of this stage? Well, he gets brought back right away. That group goes up, catches the 3 riders that had a 1:45 gap when the peloton went curve to curve back there, but UAE team members didn't want to help out. Or sorry, not UAE team members, but Lidl Trek didn't want to help out. So that's why they're getting caught right now. Now we'll call it about a 40-rider group up front. These guys are working not well together, but the big teams up there that have numbers, they're working well together, so they're driving it. Two-door cycling's up there. Bahrain Victorious, like I told you, they're all doing some pulls. Israel Premier Tech have 2 riders up there. Woodsy's one of them, so you got to believe that Chris Nealons believes that Woodsy could possibly win the stage too, so they got reason to do some work at the front too. So when you go back and look at the peloton with Niels Palet on the front, Tadej Pogačar is like, well, if Lidl Trek don't want to help out, we're just going to ride Niels Palet throughout this whole day. That's why when we go into the sprint line competition, you see Jonas Abrahamsen up there grabbing points, and Johnny Milan is at the back of the peloton 4 or 5 minutes back. Lidl Trek, you failed your sprinter. You failed your sprinter, and you failed Mads Pedersen, who you left off the roster here at the Tour de France. All right, let's see what happens, because now Little Trek can say, well, there's 40 guys up the road. There's no way Tadej Pogačar can grab some points because the gap's going out to 6 minutes. Well, as I've already told you on the butterfly effect, that we've seen 10 guys, 20 guys, and 50 guys go up the road, and Tadej Pogačar can still grab points because all those guys aren't climbers. So we start coming into about 60 kilometers to go, just after the sprint line competition, and we see Pascal Ancorn, Soudal Quickstep, that was up in that front group up there of 8 riders. He drops off the back. Why is he dropping off the back? Well, he's dropping off the back because he's got Per Pentre and Ilan van Wilder back there chasing at 30, 40 seconds. And the gap's growing a little bit bigger, so Pascal Ancorn knows he needs to go back there because he can't beat the climbers up front, because you have Arensman up front. Enric Mas is up front. Arensman's already won a stage here, and dominant style too. In fact, I told you guys on stage 15 that Arensman should not be pulling at the front of the peloton when they were coming into intermediate sprint, chasing that 15 rider Mathieu van der Poel, Wout van Aert. But Arensman's in this group. How his legs feel? I don't know. Let's find out. Mas is in the group. Julian Alaphilippe's in the group. Those are solid climbers in this group that just turned into 7. That's soon after another 20 kilometers, about 40 kilometers ago. Fred Wright's going to disappear from this front group, and he's going to go back. Fred Wright's Bahrain victorious, and he has Santiago Buitrago back there. So for sure, Bahrain victorious are rolling on the front. Pascal Ancorn, Soudal Quickstep's back there. And Chris Nylans from Israel Permatex pulling. The gap is almost getting close to about 2 minutes. So these guys got to start taking things serious, because the 6 guys in front are working. But when you think about Julian Alaphilippe's rotating through, Mas is rotating through, and of course, Ineos is rotating through right there with Arensman. We go back and look at the peloton back there. Oh, I called the peloton. Sorry, it's 35 riders. It's almost peloton. Those guys aren't, the climbers back there are not working on the front. In fact, Chris Nylans from Israel Permatex getting on the radio, he's saying, they won't even stay on my wheel. No one will work with me. Well, that's because Woods needs to know to stay on your wheel. If the favorite climbers back there, not the GC guys, if the favorite climbers back there stay on their domestiques, like Chris Nylans from Israel Permatex, if Woods stays on his wheel, the group will have to stay together. And if they don't, great, then just go up the road. And go up the road and take Soudal Quickstep with you. But the problem is, Per Pentre, Ilan van Wilder aren't staying in the right position. And we're coming into this crosswind section where the wind's coming left to right with those 3 teams on front, Bahrain victorious, Israel Permatex, and Soudal Quickstep. They've got everyone in the gutter. When you look back there and you see that their climbers are in the gutter too, this is not helping anyone out. Okay, we go back and look at the peloton real quick, because the time gap is still going up, and it's Neil Spillett pulling on the front. That's it. We go back into about 27 kilometers to go. As the road starts coming up, we take you into 22 kilometers to go. They're coming into the narrow town because Mont Ventoux is going to, after they exit this town, is going to start proper. So we see the 6 riders up front, and we see Julian Alaphilippe with about 18 kilometers to go. He throws in the first acceleration, and you see Arensman coming out the back. Now, I was texting my friend Go Bears, and I was telling her that, man, this was a surprise. I thought Arensman was a sure win here. When I saw these 6 guys together start Mont Ventoux, coming to the start of Mont Ventoux, I thought Arensman was, but now you see him dropping off the back. Well, he finds a little more energy after some attacks from Abrahamsen up there, and then Abrahamsen starts dropping out the back as we see Arensman coming up to these guys. He'll get up there, and these guys will become 4 or 5 riders at the front once we see Abrahamsen drop out the back, because we still got Velasco from Astana up in this front group. We go back and look at the chasers. The chasers, still same 3 teams drilling on the front. Let's go back and look at the peloton, because as the peloton's coming into the town, they're starting to get nervous. It's going curb to curb. Visma Lease bike's starting to get serious on the front. They're going to put Affini on the front. He's going to start driving it as the peloton's curb to curb, and we see all the top 10 GC teams interested. Tadej Pogačar is in the second row with Tim Wellens. We go back up to the breakaway specialists. Remember, there's 2 breaks, not 1. This is a complicated stage. It was an amazing stage. Knuckleheads, it's going to be an amazing finish, though. Once we come into the climb proper, Enric Mas throws in attack. The Spanish rider for Team Movistar, the Spanish team's going up the road. Now, he has not had any luck in the Tour de France at other seasons when he's participated here, so he's trying to win a stage here. This year was not shining bright for Mas right now, but as he's going solo, it looks like things are getting better back there, because it's Arensman, Julian Alaphilippe that are starting to gap with Velasco back there. Now we start looking back at the chase group, and we see that it's Soudal Quickstep on the front. With Pseudo Quickstep driving it on the front, that's Pascal Ancorn. Look behind him, Ilan Van Wilder's there, and then Parapentre. Those are two of their climbers. And then we start looking at Visma Lease bike. That's Thies Benoot there. My man Victor Campenaerts, he's in this front group, and he's close to the front. UAE team member Soler, the Solarism that I think is about time he starts losing that ism, because Soler's been racing good in the 25 season. But he's got his teammate back there too. With Sivakov, they're a little bit further back in the group, and they're going to start dropping off pretty quick from the pace. We go up front as we see Moss. He's still going solo. He's got a shot at winning here. He's got solid time on everyone, and he's putting time into Julian Alaphilippe on our ensman when Velasco starts dropping off the back. Now Moss is going solo still. We go back down the road. We look, it's Ilan Van Wilder throwing down in this group that started with about 30 guys, 35, whatever it was. And Ilan Van Wilder's throwing down with Parapentre on his wheel. We go back and look at the peloton as they're entering the climb proper. Wout van Aert's driving on the front, guys. The big guy is going to work right now. Now, Wout van Aert had a funny comment talking about stage 15 when he said Tadej Pogačar, if he felt that we were doing so wrong when we were attacking in that group of 15 with Mathieu van der Poel, Wout van Aert, and my man Victor Campenaerts, he says if he thought we were doing the wrong thing, he should have just dropped out of that group of 40 riders and went back to Jonas Vingegaard if he was a real gentleman. That's a ridiculous comment from Wout van Aert. I've heard him say a couple ridiculous comments throughout my time up here on the Butterfly Effect when I've watched him closely, but none get more ridiculous than this. Kind of pairs up a little bit when he said he was almost scared to death and he cost Peter Sagan some green points in the stage of the Tour de France, and he said he was scared for his life because he's getting bumped by Peter Sagan when he's the one who closed the gap to the fence on him, but whatever. Okay, right now, back live. Wout van Aert's driving it on the front. He's going to do about 1 kilometer on Mont Ventoux proper, and then Sepp Kuss comes to the front. It's the Flying American. He's found some form, some 23 Vuelta a España form right now. He's starting to drill it on the front, and the peloton's getting smaller and smaller. Moss is still going solo up the road. Parapentre's thrown in attacks from that group of chase back there. And we see it's Ben Healy that's chasing Parapentre. He's got some company because he's got Woods with him and Santiago Buitrago back there as we see these guys are trying to catch Parapentre. They'll start wrapping them up after about 3 kilometers of Parapentre going solo, but Moss is still up the road. Julian Alaphilippe stuck in the middle. The group of 30 back there is blown up. There's bodies everywhere, and Sepp's passing most of them. Sepp Kuss is drilling it on the front, and we start seeing riders coming out the back. Felix Gall's going to start suffering early here in today's stage with the speed up there of Sepp Kuss drilling it. But Simon Yates did some suffering too, found his way back on and did some more suffering. Sepp Kuss has got this group back down to about 15 dozen riders, and he's drilling it on the front. We're going to go up front to we see Enric Mas still going solo. Parapentre's now gotten wrapped up, so Ben Healy's in the picture. Once we go back down and look at the peloton, we're coming into about 7.5 kilometers to go. Sepp Kuss is starting to blow. Bam! It's time for Jonas Vingegaard to throw in his attack. He throws it in. Tadej Pogačar is directly on the Visma Lease bike rider's wheel. It blows up. All the GC favorite guys' bodies are blowing everywhere. We see Primož Roglič trying to close the gap. He's in front of Lipovets, who's got Oscar only with him too. But Primož Roglič is not close to the back wheel of Tadej Pogačar, so the 2 GC favorites, first and second, are drilling it up the climb. Jonas Vingegaard is going to do some amazing work right now. He's going to quickly bridge up in about 400 meters, and we see Thies Benoot. Thies Benoot's waiting there for Jonas Vingegaard. They start drilling it. Visma Lease bike 1 and 2 on the front. Tadej Pogačar sitting third. These guys are drilling it with Benoot throwing everything into it for about 1 kilometer, into about 6.1 kilometer to go. Now at this moment, Jonas throws in his next attack here on Tadej Pogačar, but again, the Slovenian from UAE team Emirates is all over the wheel of Jonas Vingegaard. Up front, we're starting to see some more action, but first we got to go back to this group here because we got my man Victor Campenaerts. As Victor Campenaerts getting wrapped up with about 5.5 kilometers to go, again, we got 2 riders from Visma Lease bike and Pogi on back. Now we take you into about 4 kilometers to go, 3.9 if I remember correctly, but do not hold me to anything factual on today's stage other than it was amazing and you should watch from kilometer 0. And if you have no time, certainly watch from 30K to go. Now we're coming into 4 kilometers to go, 3.9 like I said. We see that Parapentre and Ben Healy are catching Enric Mas. The Movistar riders getting wrapped up, but these guys still have about 2.5 minutes on the GC favorites behind. But I told you, Camp was throwing down. When I take you back to when Jonas was catching him, he paused for a minute and then tapped his computer there, so you know he's doing a big interval training. So we see Camp drilling it on the front all the way into 3.3 kilometers to go. One camp pulls off. Bam! It's attack number 3 from Jonas Vingegaard. Poggi still follows the wheel of the Visma Lease bike rider in front of him as Jonas is throwing everything into it, trying to get rid of Tadej Pogačar here on Mont Ventoux. Remember, he dropped them the last visit they had here on Mont Ventoux, but Poggi bridged it on the descent. Now there's no descent, it's a summit climb, so Jonas is throwing everything into it. We go up front as we see Moss is struggling from the attacks from Perepintre and Ben Healy throwing down on Moss as these two riders are attacking each other. When we go under 2 kilometers to go, they start playing some games. Guys, Santiago Buitrago comes back into the picture, and then we're going to see Santiago Buitrago even throw in some attacks. So Moss is struggling off the back. Then we see another rider come in the picture because we're at 800 meters to go. This rider, Ilan van Wilder, Soudal Quickstep. Remember, he was setting the tempo at the beginning of Mont Ventoux, and the cameras have never seen him. No one knew where he was, but he's come back. He's dropped Moss and passed Moss, and he goes up to the 3 riders in front because they've been playing games. With those 3 riders playing games, Ilan van Wilder looks over as he passes by on the left side, looks over and starts taking the front of the peloton, front of the break right here behind Jonas Vingegaard, still throwing in efforts. Poggi still holding on to his wheel. They're locking horns back there. It's a magical duel here on Mont Ventoux for the GC favorites and the breakaway up the road. We go back up with 700 meters to go. Ilan van Wilder still throwing down at the front. He's drilling it. We look at Ben Healy sitting second wheel. Perepintre third. Santiago Buitrago fourth. They'll follow that order going all the way into 250 meters to go when Ben Healy throws in the last big effort he's got in his legs. He attacks up the right side. Perepintre follows closely. Santiago Buitrago makes his mistake going around the left side there of Ilan van Wilder's drifting to the left. So Santiago Buitrago's got to do a big loop to come back around. And as he's coming back against the fencing, the gaps opened up to the 2 riders in front. And Ben Healy's going Mach speed. Ben Healy's coming into about 125 meters to go. He starts drifting to the left because it's a hard right turn. When they come into the right at about 75, 85 meters to go, it's a hard right with the steepest pitch here, I think, on Mont Ventoux. Ben Healy's in front, but Perepintre's throwing in his acceleration as they come up over the lip there here on Mont Ventoux. The final big steep section here all the way to the line. Perepintre's got a magical front view looking back there as we see the horizon behind Mont Ventoux. Perepintre's got the lead just barely over Ben Healy, who's still driving it. Perepinte's throwing everything into it. He'll crest the top. It'll start to slightly soften up here. He'll look left over his shoulder. See that he's got the stage wind wrapped up because Ben Healy now's cracked. So Perepintre sits up and celebrates as he crosses the line here for stage 16. Mont Ventoux victory. Ben Healy crosses the line for second. Santiago Buitrago rounds out the podium. When we look further back, Ilan van Wilder, I'm going to give you a shout out for fourth, even though I normally don't call fourth. Ilan van Wilder crosses for fourth. Now we go down and look at the GC battle back there, and keep in mind that those guys were pushed on time, so we're only talking about a minute and a half behind these guys, a minute and 10 seconds maybe, where Jonas Vingegaard still on the front. Tadej Pogačar throws in acceleration at about 1.2 kilometers to go. Tadej Pogačar throws in acceleration. Jonas follows Poggi's wheel directly. Poggi sitting on the front. He's being careful with his energy. Jonas throws in another attack. Poggi follows directly. Then we come into about 250 meters to go. Almost the exact same spot where Ben Healy threw in his acceleration. Poggi throws in his acceleration. Leads it the same way Ben Healy did. Slightly fading over to the left side of the road to make the right turn. As he does, Jonas is still locked on his wheel. Poggi throws in one more hard acceleration on the steepest pitch. I already told you guys that. With this acceleration, Jonas starts coming off the back. Poggi crosses line for fifth on the stage and green points, guys. And we look behind him. Jonas Vingegaard loses a few seconds to Tadej Pogačar, but stays close enough to where the seconds won't matter at this moment. We look further back. It was destructions of bodies back there, but Primož Roglič and Lipovic crossed the line together, and Lipovic will hold third on the general classification for sure because bodies were spread everywhere, but Lipovic did a solid ride along with Primož Roglič today on Mont Ventoux. When we get done with the stage, sorry guys, it was magnificent. The battles were everywhere. Lidl Trek were the biggest knuckleheads, there's no doubt about it, because at this moment, Poggi is only 11 points behind Johnny Milan. Now, one thing I left out because the stage had so much, and it was super important. Mathieu van der Poel did not start today's stage 16. He has some kind of pneumonia issues, if I remember it correctly, but Mathieu van der Poel is not in the race, which changes the green points thing because now it's only Poggi that's getting close there to Johnny Milan when we had Mathieu van der Poel gaining some points on stage 15. and will dramatically change how stage 21, because stage 21 is no parade here at the Tour de France. That would have been an ideal stage for Mathieu van der Poel. So big tears for Mathieu van der Poel up here on the butterfly effect for dropping out. Hopefully his sickness passes quickly and he heals up even faster. Now, like and subscribe, guys. That's the best way I could deliver today's race, and as accurately as I could. I hope you like it. Hit the like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys for stage 17 real soon.